In the moment we are born, the first breath already carries a truth that human beings often forget: everything is changing, unceasingly. Without waiting, without negotiation. We come into this world like a fresh stream flowing into the ocean of life. Not yet knowing that this very change will shape our entire journey of being human. Impermanence is not a distant concept of philosophy or religion. It is present in every heartbeat, every movement of clouds in the sky, every leaf falling from a branch. Every wrinkle quietly appearing on our face over the years. Yet the paradox is this: what is most obvious is often what we notice the least. We live much of our lives as if everything will remain the same. We love and believe that love will stay intact forever. We achieve success and believe that position will last permanently. We build a self-image and believe that who we are today will be the same tomorrow. We cling to the past as if it could be preserved, and we fear the future as if it were already fixed. It is within this contradiction that suffering arises. When a relationship changes, we feel pain. When a job is lost, we feel lost. When health declines, we feel afraid. When loved ones pass away, we feel despair. Not because change is bad, but because we have lived in the illusion that everything must remain stable. Impermanence, therefore, is not the enemy of happiness. Our resistance to impermanence is the true source of suffering. Look at a river. It is never the same water from one moment to the next. The water flows continuously, the banks shift shape, the reflections of light change every second. Yet we still call it the same river. In the same way, we are not the same person yesterday, today, and tomorrow, yet we still believe in a fixed self. Impermanence raises a profound question: if everything is constantly changing, then what truly is to me? Are we the body that ages day by day? Or the thoughts that constantly shift? Or the emotions that rise and fall? Or the stories we tell about ourselves? If all of these change, is there anything within us that is enduring? In Eastern wisdom traditions, impermanence is not seen as a pessimistic reminder of loss, but as a gateway to awakening. It invites us to look deeply into the nature of existence, beyond the surface of form, to touch the depth of reality. When we truly understand impermanence, we do not become indifferent or detached. On the contrary, we become more alive, more loving, more appreciative of each moment. Because we know that everything is precious precisely because it does not last forever. A flower is beautiful not because it is immortal, but because it is fragile. A radiant sunset is not beautiful because it is permanent, but because it will fade in a moment. A warm embrace is not meaningful because it endures forever, but because it happens in a moment that will never be repeated. Impermanence, when rightly understood, transforms life into a living work of art. But to receive the wisdom of impermanence, we must learn to let go of the illusion of permanence. We must learn to see the world as a flow, not as a static picture. We must learn to love without clinging, to live without fear of loss, and to be present without fleeing from reality. Many people fear impermanence because they believe it brings only loss. But impermanence is also the very reason for growth, healing, and renewal. If nothing changed, wounds would never heal, sorrow would never dissolve, seeds would never sprout, and we would never mature. Impermanence is both pain and blessing. It shatters what we cling to, but it also opens new doors. It takes away what we love, but it also gives us the chance to love more deeply. It reminds us that nothing lasts forever, and precisely because of that, every moment is worthy of being cherished. When we look deeply into impermanence, we begin to see that suffering does not come from change itself, but from the way we resist it. The more tightly we cling, the more we suffer. The more we loosen our grip, the freer we become. The wisdom of impermanence does not teach us to abandon life, but to live more fully with each breath. It teaches us to love deeply without possession, to give without seeking recognition, and to be present without fear. It teaches us that our true self does not lie in what changes, but in the awareness that witnesses all change. The wisdom of impermanence explained is not merely a philosophical lecture, it is a journey of looking back at ourselves, at how we love, how we live, how we face loss, and how we find peace in a constantly changing world. And on this journey, we gradually realize that impermanence is not the destroyer of happiness, it is the silent teacher, guiding us to live more deeply, love more truthfully, and return more closely to the free nature of who we truly are. When we begin to see impermanence not as an abstract idea but as a vivid, lived experience, the entire way we understand ourselves and the world begins to change. Impermanence is not merely disappearance, it is the continuous transformation of all phenomena. Each moment arises and fades, each form is created and then dissolved, each emotion surges and then settles. Nothing stands still, not even what we call me. The human mind seeks stability because it fears uncertainty. We build identities, habits, beliefs, and stories about ourselves to create a sense of safety. Yet it is precisely these structures that cause us suffering when they are shaken. When work changes, we feel lost. When love ends, we collapse. When health declines, we become afraid. When loved ones leave, we despair. Not because change is cruel, but because we have overly identified ourselves with things that are inherently always changing. In the depth of the wisdom of impermanence, we are invited to look again at how we cling. We cling to the body as if it will remain forever young, cling to emotions as if they are permanent, cling to thoughts as if they are absolute truth. But if we observe carefully, we see that the body is always changing, emotions are always fluctuating, and thoughts are always coming and going. Nothing in them is fixed, so why do we take them to be our essence? Impermanence places us before a powerful yet liberating truth: we are not what changes. We are the space of awareness that witnesses that change. When we realize this, a profound shift occurs in the mind. We are no longer completely swept away by emotions or circumstances. When sadness arises, we see sadness without being drowned by it. When anger appears, we recognize anger without being controlled by it. When happiness is present, we enjoy it without clinging. Impermanence teaches us to live with emotions as guests, not masters. One of the most beautiful paradoxes of impermanence is this: precisely because everything changes, everything can heal. If pain were permanent, we would never escape suffering. If failure were fixed, we would never grow. If wounds could not transform, we would remain imprisoned. But because everything is impermanent, pain can fade, wounds can heal, and we can begin again. Look at a storm. It is fierce, violent, destructive, and then it passes. The sky clears, the air softens, and nature is reborn. The human mind is the same. Inner storms come and go. When we understand impermanence, we no longer fear them as before, we know that no storm lasts forever. Impermanence also changes the way we love. Before, we may have loved with fear of loss, always gripping tightly, always worrying, always wanting to keep everything unchanged. But when we understand impermanence, we learn to love deeply without bondage. We cherish each moment together because we know nothing is permanent. Love becomes more subtle, more authentic, and less painful. Instead of asking, "How can I make this last forever?" we begin to ask, "How can I love fully right now?" Impermanence also deepens gratitude. When we realize that life guarantees nothing, each breath, each morning, each embrace, each moment of peace becomes precious. We no longer take them for granted. We slow down, look more deeply, and feel more fully. At a spiritual level, impermanence opens the door to inner freedom. When we let go of the illusion of fixity, we no longer have to defend a rigid self. We can change, grow, release old beliefs, and open to the new. We no longer fear losing ourselves, because we understand that our true self does not lie in changing forms, but in the awareness that stands behind them. Impermanence also helps us live more harmoniously with life. Instead of resisting change, we learn to adapt. Instead of trying to control everything, we learn to trust the flow. Instead of fighting loss, we learn to transform it into wisdom. When we look deeply, we see that impermanence is not only an external law, but the rhythm of life itself. Being born, growing up, aging, dissolving, this is not a tragedy, but the nature of existence. It is precisely through dissolution that life continues to arise. Impermanence, therefore, is not a reminder of death, but an invitation to live more fully. When we understand impermanence, we no longer postpone happiness. We do not wait for, when everything is stable, to allow ourselves peace. We know there is no absolute stability. We learn to find peace right in the midst of change. We begin to live like someone walking on a river, not clinging to the shore, not fearing the current, but allowing the water to carry us with awareness and trust. And at the deepest level, impermanence leads us back to the silent essence within, a place not born and not dying, not disturbed by change. It is the space of pure awareness, vast as the sky, containing all clouds without being obscured by them. When we touch this depth, we understand that loss is no longer as frightening as before. Not because we become indifferent, but because we see more clearly the true nature of living. The wisdom of impermanence, in the end, does not make us sadder, it makes us live more deeply. It teaches us to love more truthfully, appreciate more fully, let go more skillfully, and be more completely present. It helps us see life not as something to be held on to, but as a miraculous flow to be experienced. And when we walk with impermanence instead of resisting it, we discover that freedom does not lie in making everything stand still, but in being at peace amid all change. When we speak of the wisdom of impermanence, we are not merely speaking of a philosophical law or a cosmic principle. We are speaking of a way of seeing, a way of living, and more deeply, a way of being in this world. Impermanence, when understood through wisdom rather than intellect alone, transforms the entire way we experience life. On the surface, impermanence can make us feel insecure. If everything changes, then what can we hold on to? If every relationship can fall apart, then what meaning does love have? If the body will age and disintegrate, then is life worth living? These questions often frighten people, and out of fear, we try to deny impermanence, we seek artificial stability, clinging to rigid images of ourselves and the world. But the wisdom of impermanence does not deny this fear, it looks directly at it. When we dare to face impermanence honestly, we begin to see that fear does not come from change, but from our own clinging. We are not afraid of loss, we are afraid of losing the image we have built of ourselves. We are not afraid of impermanence, we are afraid of the self being shaken. The wisdom of impermanence begins with a very subtle shift, from everything is being lost, to everything is alive in each moment. Instead of seeing life as a process of decline, we begin to see it as a continuous dance of birth and death. Each moment is not a step closer to loss, but a complete expression of life right here and now. In this way of seeing, a flower is no longer merely something that will wither, it is the absolute beauty of a moment in full bloom. A relationship is no longer merely something that can end, it is the miracle of two people meeting in the present. A breath is no longer merely something that will cease, it is the rhythm of life unfolding fully. The wisdom of impermanence, therefore, does not make us pessimistic, it makes us more awake. At a deeper level, impermanence helps us realize that all forms are temporary, but that which witnesses them is not born and does not die. When we observe carefully, we see that thoughts come and go, emotions rise and settle. The body changes day by day, yet there is a silent depth always present behind it all. That is the space of awareness. That space does not age with the body. That space does not grieve with emotions. That space is not swept away by thoughts. It is like the sky, clouds may come and go, storms may arise, but the sky remains vast and unharmed. The wisdom of impermanence leads us from identifying with the self that is changing to recognizing the one who is witnessing the change. When this shift occurs, the fear of loss naturally diminishes. We still feel sadness in separation, still feel pain and loss, but we are no longer crushed by them. We know that every experience comes and goes, and that our deepest nature remains intact. On the psychological level, impermanence helps us loosen the need for control. We realize that trying to keep everything fixed is a battle that cannot be won. Relationships will change, work will fluctuate, health will rise and fall, people will leave. This is not our failure, but the nature of living. When we accept this, we do not become passive, on the contrary, we act more skillfully. Instead of tightly grasping what is slipping away, we learn to care for what is present. Instead of fearing the future, we learn to prepare with clarity. Instead of regretting the past, we learn to transform it into wisdom. The wisdom of impermanence also deepens compassion. When we see that everyone is living within the current of impermanence, everyone fears loss, everyone suffers. Everyone longs for safety, we become less judgmental. We no longer see others as enemies or rivals, but as human beings struggling with the same existential truth. We begin to see that harmful actions by others often arise from fear, not from malice. This does not justify wrong behavior, but it opens space for understanding and forgiveness. At a spiritual depth, impermanence leads us to a very unusual freedom, freedom from the need to be a fixed version of ourselves. We no longer have to maintain an image, I am successful, I am strong, I am good, I am wounded. We allow ourselves to change, to grow, to make mistakes, to release old labels. In this freedom, we become more alive. We no longer live like a statue that must preserve its form, but like a flexible stream, able to flow through all terrain while still retaining its clear essence. The wisdom of impermanence also changes the way we face death. Instead of seeing death as a catastrophe to be avoided, we begin to see it as a natural part of living. This does not make us love life less, it makes us love life more deeply. Because we know time is finite, we cherish each day more. Because we know nothing is permanent, we love more fully. We no longer postpone love, no longer delay apologies, no longer wait for tomorrow to live authentically. Ultimately, the wisdom of impermanence is not something we understand with the mind, it is something we live with the heart. It does not come from reading books or listening to teachings, but from observing life with awareness, watching leaves fall, watching rain stop. Watching emotions rise and fall, watching everything arise and dissolve. Each time we witness impermanence without running away, that wisdom deepens a little more. And little by little, we realize that impermanence is not the destroyer of happiness, it is the greatest teacher of life. It teaches us to love without clinging. It teaches us to live without fear. It teaches us to let go without losing ourselves. It teaches us to be fully present with each living moment. And when we walk with impermanence instead of resisting it, we discover a very deep peace, not dependent on circumstances, not shaken by change. That is the wisdom of impermanence, not an understanding of loss, but an awakening to the true nature of living. When we step more deeply into the wisdom of impermanence, we begin to see that this is not merely a concept to contemplate, but an entirely new lens through which to view life. Impermanence does not break life apart, it clarifies the true nature of life. And within that clarity, a very different kind of inner freedom begins to emerge. Before understanding impermanence, we often live as if everything could be kept the same. We strive to build absolute stability, a secure job, a lasting relationship, a perfect self-image, a controllable future. We believe that if we control things tightly enough, we will not be hurt. But the tighter we hold, the more exhausted we become, and paradoxically, the more fragile we are. Impermanence invites us to let go of that way of seeing. It does not tell us to stop making efforts or to abandon life. It simply asks us to shift our inner foundation. Instead of living from the fear of loss, we learn to live from awareness and acceptance. We still work, still love, still build, but no longer from a state of clinging, control, and panic. When we look deeply, we see that all great human suffering is connected to resisting impermanence. We suffer when a relationship changes, but the pain actually comes from the expectation that it should remain the same. We suffer from failure, but mainly because we believe success must be fixed. We fear aging because we cling to youth as our identity. Impermanence teaches us a fundamental lesson: change is not the disaster, clinging to the old is. On the psychological level, impermanence helps us loosen the ego. When we understand that all roles, titles, and achievements are temporary, we identify with them less. We can be successful today and fail tomorrow, yet our deepest essence is not shaken by this. We begin to see ourselves as the sky, while life events are merely clouds. Sometimes white clouds, sometimes dark clouds, sometimes storms, but the sky remains intact. This shift brings a very deep kind of peace, peace that does not come from everything being good, but from no longer being defined by circumstances. On the emotional level, impermanence gives us more freedom. Before, when we were sad, we thought, I am this sadness. When angry, we thought, I am this anger. But when we understand impermanence, we simply see, this is a wave of sadness arising, and it will pass. Emotions are no longer life sentences, they become waves on the surface of the mind. This does not make us numb. On the contrary, we feel more deeply, but are less overwhelmed. We can truly cry when it is time to cry, without being trapped in despair. We can feel anger, without allowing it to control our lives. On the level of relationships, impermanence allows love to mature. We no longer love with the fear of loss, but with appreciation for the present. We no longer ask, how can I keep this forever? But instead, how can I love fully right now? Each moment together becomes a gift, not a possession to defend. Love infused with impermanence does not become weaker, it becomes deeper. Because we know every moment is precious, we become more present, more attentive, more forgiving, and more sincere. On the level of action, impermanence brings clarity. When we no longer cling to the illusion of absolute stability, we prepare for change instead of panicking before it. We become more flexible, more adaptable, less rigid. We do not cling to a single path, we learn to walk many paths while still preserving our inner core. Impermanence also deepens compassion. When we see that everyone is living within a stream of uncertainty, everyone fears loss, everyone longs for peace, we judge others less. We understand that harmful actions often arise from fear, not from pure malice. As a result, our hearts become softer and more open. On the spiritual level, impermanence leads us to recognize our true nature. We see that everything that arises and passes exists on the surface, while the inner depth is a silent space of awareness, untouched by time. When we touch this depth, we are no longer afraid of losing ourselves amid change, because we have found a self that does not depend on form. Impermanence also changes the way we view death. Instead of seeing it as an enemy, we see it as a natural part of living. This does not make us sadder, it makes us live more fully. We do not postpone love, delay apologies, or put off living honestly from the heart. Ultimately, the wisdom of impermanence does not turn life into a tragedy, it turns life into a living art. Each moment becomes precious because it will not be repeated. Each experience becomes profound because it is finite. Each relationship becomes sacred because it is fragile. And if these reflections touch something within you, if impermanence no longer feels like a fear but has become a teacher, take a moment to leave a comment below, sharing how you are experiencing change in your own life. Your story may become a light for someone else walking this same path. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to continue journeying together through deep contemplations like these, where we explore Buddhist wisdom, inner awareness, and ways of living in harmony within the flow of impermanence. Because the more we understand impermanence, the more deeply we live, the more fully we love. And the closer we return to the free nature of our true selves.